Um, Hi. I was saying that I had to make a joke that we're the only thing standing between you guys and lunch. So we're going to make it super interesting, right? So I'm Maria McCarthy. I'm from Teads. If you guys aren't familiar with Teads, we are largely a video platform ad tech media company. So we have our ad tech embedded in the heart of quality editorial. So you've seen our ads 100 times on Hearst, Condé Nast, Dotdash. And so we sell video at scale to clients such as Alex at Conagra. So Alex, do you want to tell us a little bit about your role at Conagra?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Alex Birchmeier. I am the Media Strategy Director at Conagra. What that means from a media strategy perspective is essentially the where we buy media with the most impact, with the who we're targeting, and what are we showing up with in a nutshell. 100 brands, Conagra. So we got a lot going on over here.
A lot going on.
Same with Ali and Pepsi. They have a lot of brands too. But Conagra, 100 brands, pretty much every category in the grocery store, we're probably in it. So frozen, healthy choice, Bird's Eye, snacks, Slim Jim, personal favorites, Orville Redenbacher, Angie's Boom Chicken Pop. And then grocery, Rotel, Hunt's Tomatoes, Chef Boyardee. So run the gamut. We have a lot of decisions that we can make. We can decide if we want to have this brand on or this brand on or not have this brand on. So there's a lot of those types of decisions. But the main, really major decision that we made in the past couple of years at Conagra was to actually depart from the upfront. It was a decision that we didn't take lightly. Every client or client role or agency role was always anchored in television. Or was a piece of the mix, if you will. So going from at least some TV or a lot of TV to no TV was tricky and fun.
Yeah. And as you know, many of us who've lived in the CPG space for so long, that move away from a TV upfront is groundbreaking in a lot of ways in terms of when we think about digital transformation. I think that's probably the front of the line. But what led to that decision that Conagra made universally for the brands, right? So if it's 100 brands, it has this trickling effect for all the brands. So what led to that?
Yeah, so I mean, TV in itself is expensive to do. It's expensive production. You have to, make 15s, 30s of this expensive content. It takes a lot of resources to do that. It takes creative agencies. That's just the non-working cost. And then the working cost of all of that, actually, we're like, well, we have 100 brands. How can we stretch our dollar as much as possible? TV is not really the place to stretch your dollar. So we truly, in the economics of it, we're like, okay, you can only reach this many people. It's declining. The cost is kind of going up and we don't have more budget to be spending. So really the economics of television just didn't make sense for us. When we're selling, a $1 can of Hunt's tomatoes, you got to sell a lot of those on TV to make that up. So we made the decision to just depart it, which it's been kind of fun to not have to get those firm flex, like, what are we cutting this month? Every time, like, because you have to, upfronts are very traditional in their way. You do it the full year. There's not that much flexibility. They're getting better, but it just has been really interesting to have all of your media be flexible.
Yeah. What did that change in the KPIs and the way that you were looking at success for the brands then?
Sure. I mean, television still today is a very efficient reach driver. That there's, you can get that quick reach right away. That there's no arguing that. Although I would argue that it's less reach than with all the cord cutting that's going on, but it's still reach is still important to us. Now, getting that reach is a little bit different when you're just moving all to social and digital type of buys. So it's not that immediate reach curve that you just see immediately go up and then all of a sudden you kind of plateau and get some frequency. It's really now like that gradual reach, but it's more what we call relevant reach, where we're really trying to be precision targeted with our media dollars, with the correct brand to the right person, with the right message. And you can't really do that on TV. So this has really been a great way for us to just kind of have more brands on, as well as target the people that we really wanted to target.
And then what does data look like for you guys? And when we think of data, meaning either the data to kind of make this decision or the data then to decide what's next?
Sure. So there was a lot of, I mean, it wasn't just me going, hey, I think we should depart the upfront. Like that did not happen.
I'm busy that week.
Yeah, we're just going to be done. No, we honestly, there was a lot of data involved. It came from our partner agencies.
Yeah.
It came from vendors. It was just this kind of writing on the wall for us that like this decline of, linear television, the increased usage of, mobile phones, computers, all of that kind of stuff. So it was just like, to us, it was like, well, and plus if I can target it, it just made more sense for us.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the data from agencies, partners, even just anecdotes from people that were like, yeah, I'm done with cable. And, I have YouTube TV or I have Roku, like there were all these different things. And you just kept being like, gosh, there's a way to maybe not do this, but then be on these digital and social platforms.
So what does the creative process look like for you now? Because there's still messaging in market. So it's largely digital, social. What is largely in the mix then?
Yeah, so it's crazy because I feel like everything is changing. Like, and that's such a like drama statement to make, but like with this decision not to be part of television, it changes kind of the handcuffs that you're on. You don't have to be making these 15, 30 second, 60-second spots anymore. You can now make it with an iPhone. You can use makers and influencers to do this stuff. And that's like where it seems like it's headed. Like people don't really want ads from companies. They want to be a part of the conversation as well. So we're really leaning into more of these influencers, makers on these social platforms, digital platforms, and partnering with them gives us a credible voice and it weaves us into the conversation versus us being like 10 grams of protein, like, and it's like, okay, I didn't ask and I didn't care. So, that was, that really just founding our creative on what people want and what they're talking about.
So when you think about over 100 brands and you have probably some more traditional brands that are used to doing things a certain way, how have all the brands reacted to the fact that you're taking a different approach to marketing? Are there some brands that embraced it more so than others?
Yeah, so with 100 brands, we have a lot of brand teams. And at Conagra, we are in the precision marketing team. We're the center of excellence, and we pretty much make a lot of the media content, PR decisions on behalf of the brands. Because if you can think about that, the economies of scale, everyone having their opinion on what they want to do from a media perspective, we would have 100 different opinions. So we've really made sure that we were taking people along the ride so that they weren't like, well, when I was at P&G 30 years ago, TV, we needed 100 TRPs and this and like that. Everyone has like their kind of playbook that they've always used in the past to go, this is how a good media plan looks like. We had to really root it in the data to go, hey, we actually think this is the pivot we need to make. One side note, we don't do MMM. So that was another thing that we couldn't like base it off of. But it was just in the data of the reach, how much it costs to reach, and the economies of scale for us to really pivot to social and digital.
We're talking about digital transformation, but you could almost have a whole nother chat about changing the way an entire organization goes about things and getting people on board and leadership and all of that. So that's a whole nother part of it, an element of it that needed to be kind of rooted in it. What is the creative look like now that it's not just 15 seconds, 30 seconds? And how have you been able to kind of get really kind of broader with that? I know influencers you mentioned was a big part of it. Talk about a little bit about the creative would be helpful.
Well, the good thing about this approach is you get to make lots of different things. So you get to test out different messages. You can get to test out different makers, influencers, all of that kind of stuff. So that's cool because when you're in TV, a lot of times it's 1 to 2 messages. You don't really get any feedback. It's all on the television. So it's not like there's any that's like, it's really us talking at them on TV. With social, digital, you can start seeing what people are gravitating towards, what people are sharing, what people are actually viewing. And that can give us some clues into type of creative that we want to go with, who we want to work with, all of that kind of stuff. So it makes us really kind of nimble in a way, without the huge out-of-pocket costs of hiring a creative agency to make this grand spot for the Super Bowl, for instance.
So how will you know that it's all been successful?
Question. I know, because we don't do MMM. We don't do a lot of these traditional, how CPGs traditionally measure. We are looking to pilot a couple of different measurement solutions that are more custom and bespoke that we actually agree and align on.
Okay.
So TBD on that. But for us, just being able to have more brands in market with these more relevant messages, anecdotally, I feel good about the decision we're making. But now it's time to prove that through, sales measurement, all of that kind of stuff.
So how partners such as, Teads, we work with you guys in a number of different ways. So what are you looking for differently from vendors and partners as you kind of start planning for the next fiscal?
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of the trifecta I mentioned before of what our media strategy team does at Conagra. It's the who are we targeting? The what are we targeting them with, and the where. And what I'm really trying to do is get these outsized impacts or outsized, next best actions of people to view our content, get noticed in the right spot, right person with the right message to eventually drive a sale. Can't prove out that I'm driving a sale quite yet, but hopefully we'll get there at some point. But at least now we're starting to look at these partners that kind of have all three of those for us that they can, and then scale it out is important for as well.
Okay. So when you look at different KPIs for now that we're kind of drilling down, going more social, looking at different types of KPIs, what are the different ways that a partner can bring something to you outside of a CPM, right? There's that's been the traditional way to buy. How are you looking, not even from partners, but just as your brands in kind of bigger picture, look outside just as traditional CPM to make sure that it's driving some type of a result for you?
Sure. Yeah, we primarily stuck with the CPM model. And when I say CPM, more of it's, we call it CPR, so cost per reach, instead of like a CP, thousands. We want the frequency in there as well, just to see how efficient we are in driving that relevant reach. But I am interested in those more maybe DR type of metrics. So not only do I want the branding, but I want the conversion as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm like that brief that's like, I want to drive awareness and then consideration and then purchase. But then but honestly, you can kind of do that in social and digital. Like you can actually measure that through the whole thing of seeing it, going to somewhere, and then adding it to cart. So like that's truly, so like a CPA model, I'd be interested in down to test that. Like how much does it cost to get someone to actually view something, watch it, and then go to our site and then add it to their cart? Once that kind of happens, we kind of lose it from there because it goes to the retailer and we don't have that data, but at least we can kind of measure that we're getting them down, further down.
Yeah. And then what's next? So there was the upfront part of it all, right? And kind of making this decision, getting the company on board, changing the way that you're going to market, allowing a media buy to do it all for you, right? From upper all the way to lower funnel. Then what's next?
So all of what I'm saying is in progress right now. Like new partners are coming on board that we've never tested before. It's kind of this for our fiscal. It starts literally next week. It's going to be kind of the true test of how this is all going to come to fruition and how it's going to look moving into our fiscal 23. What I am excited about after this, but it also makes my head spin a bit, is we're starting to talk about Web3, NFTs, metaverses. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just figuring out social and digital on Web 2. Do we have to go to Web 3 right now? Like, can we just hold it for a second? But it is something that we are looking to test into. We've done some NFTs, some tests with that kind of stuff, but it seems like that's the next frontier and I'll learn it.
You'll learn it. Do you feel pressure to have to test everything that kind of comes that's new like that? Do you feel the need to that you're doing your brands a disservice if you don't at least dip your toe in it? Or how do you feel about, kind of that next evolution?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many decisions you can make, and there's opportunities to know when to test and when not to test. I think that's important to just understand, because you could test everything and then you get nowhere. So really like having tenets of what you want to learn is going to be helpful for you to go, okay, I can hang my hat on. We had these 3 things this year that we really wanted to tackle. And if I can answer those 3, then I can get to my next 3 questions. Because if I just start throwing spaghetti against the wall, we'll never learn anything that way.
And then I think also, given your media background, I think you were mentioning the other day to me that you also took over some new responsibilities where now you're trying to market in restaurants.
Oh man. So yeah, food service. So more B2B advertising. That's my new frontier right now, which is a whole nother world. I was at the National Restaurant Association Expo this week. My mind was blown. The equipment, the dinnerware, the technology, the apps, like, like Uber, everyone, they're all there. And my mind was blown. So I'm like, okay, another thing I need to learn is now food service, as well as the metaverse, as well as all this other stuff.
What are you doing here? You have a lot to learn. Right?
I know, I should probably go back.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Oh, we do.
If you had to pick a Conagra brand to partner with Allie and a PepsiCo brand, do a mashup, which one would you pick?
I don't know why my mind went to like Ready Whip and like, and I know she just mentioned Mountain Dew, spicy Mountain Dew. Or, let's do that.
I like that. I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one.
Oh, there you are. I was like, where is Allie? It is true though. I mean, innovation is key. Actually, Pepsi was at the NRA, the National Restaurant Association. And I know I say that and I'm like, oh my God, there's another NRA. National Restaurant Association. And I tried the Pepsi Nitro and it was fantastic.
Hi, curious about your role now in retail media and how you guys are working internally to address that and the impact you're seeing on having to commit to things like Allie was working on and where you see sort of like your traditional brand money, are you getting pressure to shift some of that more into retail investment?
Oh man, that's the whole other side of the transformation that we didn't even touch on. So retail media networks. Man, these last 2 years have been insane because traditionally, a lot of CPGs, you have your shopper marketing budget over here, and then you have your branding dollars over here. Well, that has all changed now. I would say almost half of our budget this past year went to retailer media networks. It was a lot, and it's at the end of the day, you're still reaching the same people. It's just how you're reaching them. So for us, the data behind these retailer media networks is crucial. I mean, as a CPG, we say we have our first party data, but it's a small subset of the population. These retailers are the ones that are sitting on a lot of that. So the blending has happened. I've never worked closer with our shopper friends. Our media agency actually does all of our e-com search. Everything has now crossed and blended. At the end of the day, what I do love about the retail media networks is that you are able to start proving out stuff. Like you can see ROAS. I remember Allie was saying incrementality. Still trying to get to that kind of thing where we can kind of really measure what is incremental or not. But to us, retailer media networks are now national media.
And do you see as a result of that then budgets are just completely combined and the decision maker is one versus what you were saying, it used to be so siloed and separate?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, how we're broken up is if it's an omni retailer, our shopper teams own that budget. So they own that JVP agreement with the partner on how much we're going to spend on their retail media network. Now, if it's a pure play, when I say pure play, I'm talking like Instacarts of the world, Amazon's, even though they're coming into physical, we still own Amazon Fresh, Amazon.com for our budgets, GoPuffs of the world. All of that is coming from, I would call it the media budget at the end of the day. So we're setting the tone on that agreement. At the end of the day, it's a pot of money that we need to spend, and we want to spend it in the right places.
Yeah.
It is now so blended though that if they need to spend this much money over here, then what makes that happen over here? We have to work like simultaneously together now with those budgets and make sure we're not duplicating efforts either. That's another thing that's happening.
Because I think at first you start seeing this blend with the brands and shopper and e-com all come together. And you think at first that maybe it was consumers that were driving that, right? Consumers are everywhere and one can drive the other, but it was probably a combination of consumers' behaviors changing plus the retail media networks, right?
Yeah, I mean, we always try to move it to, so we're reaching consumers at the end of the day, whether it's national, retailer, the consumer doesn't really care at the end of the day. We're trying to reach them, try to make them have a decision and to ultimately buy us. So for me, if you just break that down, then to me, I'm like, well, where can I make the biggest outcome, and it's typically with the retailers. So if you're at the point of purchase, whether it's in store or out of store, showing up on the digital shelf is going to be the best ROI for us. Just making sure that we're even there is going to give us that outsized impact than maybe be showing a 15-second TV ad. So that's kind of why we've really have shifted a lot of our thinking towards these more lower funnel tactics, but ensuring that when we do show up away from the shelf, that it's actually resonant, you're actually being noticed, that it's actually impactful, and that someone actually cares about, so that then they can kind of create those mental associations. We were just talking about audio and how you can have mental associations with how audio can work. So there's just all these other things that outside of everything that we're talking about, retailer media networks plus national, it's combined at this point.
I have one last question. Anybody else have anything before we get to lunch? Okay, we have one more.
I was curious, with the rise of a lot of companies now that are powering choppable ads, like the McMax and those of the world, how are you kind of fitting that into your media strategy in addition to the retailer partnerships that you're doing?
Sure. Yes, we actually just got done with kind of a large look at all the different players out there, because what did not want to do was pick a partner for just shoppable media, but then on all our websites have a different partner. So what we kind of did was, hey, where we are driving people to what we call Ready, Set, Eat. It's our conglomerate of all of our recipe content for all of the Conagra brands, as well as some of the brand content on that site. We wanted to make sure that that was shoppable, but also driving people to, and we use Basketful because of the recipe integrations that they have. But I'm always down to test, because I even heard Instacart with TikTok and Hearst and all that's coming, where you can literally look at an ad and add it to your Instacart cart. I'm like, I want to do that. Yeah. That's something that I would love to do, because it can put the whole recipe right then and there.
So much. Okay, so on that front, what has been the funnest part of your job at Conagra? Either a fun campaign that you launched that you were excited about, changing the way an organization looked at media?
I wouldn't call that fun. That was a lot of work, but it was good work. It was really exciting to be able to move the needle and get one person by one person on board with that. So it was a lot of work. It was fun. It's cool to say, oh, you did that. And we felt like we moved the business forward, which is great. Something that I think is really fun is, and I don't have as much to do with this, but it's the team, our brand communications team does a lot of PR, earned media and organic social. They have made this community around Slim Jim called the Long Boy Gang. And it is taken off. It is crazy. We're not even needing to make creative, because now people are making the creative for you. And then we're able to share that out. You don't need a dollar paid to do it. So it's something with making community, rallying around a brand, and making it fun. It's all about humor. It's all about these fun memes. They leaned into that. And we just hit 2 million TikTok followers in 2 months. We broke the algorithm, the things that we're able to do, they thought we were a bot. And so we had to be like, hey, we're not a bot. We're just organically posting a lot of stuff.
Long Boy Game?
Long Boy Gang.
There you go. Heard it here. If you didn't know about it already. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, guys. If you don't have any other questions, I think we'll get to lunch.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.